unless you.
Also, don't see you. I don't want to be seen.
Hello again.
Hello again. I thought I wasn't going to get in then.
Lay and start. I had to wash my hands.
Oh, that's all right then. We'll forgive you.
We're all encouraged to, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Just apologising for the delay, though, because we just ran a little.
When do we plan to start?
I think we could start any moment, Chairman. I think it's perhaps helpful just to go through the same things as we went through before, which is just to encourage people to switch off their microphones, because it does reduce the background.
Yeah, right, on that.
Bing, which tells us that somebody else wants to come in. So I'll continue to admit people if you'd like to start the meeting, Chairman.
Can we be assured that we won't be thrown out of the meeting like we were last time?
As long as we have reasonable behaviour from everyone, no one would be excluded from the meeting.
I was thrown out of the meeting. So was Councillor Burkhill, so was Councillor Brewerton.
As a point of order, Chairman, could we start the
Again.
Chair.
Okay. I'll go for. Okay.
Chair.
We haven't started the meeting yet. Do you want to speak anyway?
Yes, I'd like to ask a point of order.
I'm in.
We're not in a meeting, so points of order are not.
When's it started yet? No.
Points of order apply during the debates. And I want to ask Jackie, was it you who quoted a point of order?
Yes, it was indeed.
Are you here as the proper officer?
I am here offering support to Handforth Parish Council in the conduct of this meeting this evening.
You're not the proper officer.
Is that as clerk or proper officer?
There's no difference between clerk and proper officer.
Of course there is.
Yes, there is.
You must know the basic law.
Are we
I
going
would
to,
have thought.
are we going to start this meeting?
It isn't the role of somebody who, however kindly, volunteers to do the clerking for a meeting to act as a proper officer if they haven't so been appointed. That's against the law.
It's been called by
And let me also quote to you the standing orders of Handforth. Will you stop talking?
Unless we are prepared.
Will you please listen?
We'll go the same.
Will you please listen? Will you stop being whatever it is you're trying to be and just clerk the meeting if that's what you want to do? Points of order, according to our standing orders, are determined by the chair. If you want to raise a point of order as a councillor, you ask if you can raise a point of order, you state it, and then the chair decides. It is not for the clerk to raise a point of order. It is not for the clerk to decide a point of order. And you must be aware of that, or at least God knows what you're doing in your job if you're not aware.
Start this meeting?
It is.
Or shall we elect an alternative chairman?
Oh, hiya. Yeah, I'm just in a meeting at the moment. Can I give you a call back when it finishes?
The good reason.
Okay, all right, bye.
So, Chairman, albeit late, shall we get this meeting started?
I
Can't see Jackie Weaver.
It is this woman. There.
Right, we'll start the meeting, and I want to repeat what I said at the beginning of the last meeting, that this meeting has not been called according to the law. The law has been broken.
It has been properly
Will you
called.
please let the chairman
Mrs. Weaver, please.
If you disrupt this meeting, I will have to remove you from it.
You can't.
It's only the chairman who can remove people from a meeting. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out.
I-
Right. Just a minute. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out. Don't.
This is a meeting called by 2 councillors.
Illegally?
They now elect a chairman.
No, they can't because the vice chair's here. I take charge. Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
Dear me.
Appalling behaviour.
Chairman gone.
A copy of this will in fact be sent to the monitoring officer.
I hope so.
Vice chair.
Out of those people,
Where's the chairman?
we
Read
elect,
the standing orders. It then reverts to me.
Where's the chairman gone?
Read the standing orders.
like to elect a chairman for this meeting.
You don't have to elect a chairman. There's a chairman already installed. The chairman of the council.
Councillor Burkhill, we've been through this.
You don't. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. The chairman of the council is the chairman of the council.
Yeah, I'm going to subpoena everybody.
Mr. Burkhill, could I ask you to be respectful to Jackie Weaver, please?
Out of would now elect a
Here comes the subpoena.
chairman.
I want to leave. Just you go and out then. She's kicked Barry out, so I'm leaving. No, Barry. No, Barry has gone. I'll stay. We're trying to have a Teams meeting, you fool. We're trying to have a Teams meeting, you fool. We can't if you've got that. Oh, we just don't.
Jackie Weaver, I find that the person on Alec Brewerton's Zoom is being very disrespectful to everybody.
Oh, coming from you from Burkhill, that sounds good.
Wow.
Thank God for that.
Now elect a chairman for the meeting, please.
Yes.
Jackie.
Can I propose John Smith, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
We
Okay. My first point is to apologise to Jackie, but welcome to Handforth. May I start?
Indeed,
Sorry.
it's nothing if not lively in Handforth.
Yes, but what I would say is that it was a very good example of bullying within Cheshire East and the environs.
John, can I make a very, very quick point? Rich coming from the chairman who hasn't held a meeting since March to try and call this one illegal. The man is a complete disgrace.
Okay, thank you, Peter. All right, I'll get started. Things to do. Yes, I was going to ask a point of order of the chair, but unfortunately, I don't think that now would be an appropriate time because I couldn't get an answer from him. I will state it though, because we wanted an answer on this question, and it was of the 3 councillors who have unfortunately left, but I wanted to ask them, do they consider this meeting to be held legally, even though Jean Thompson has not been summoned? If so, the previous meetings called and held, not summoning Jean Thompson, are therefore also de facto legal. So I just wanted to ask them if they considered it legal, but obviously we've seen the result. We'll move on. Item 1.
Just before we move off, might it be to reassure the members of the public who are present that the meeting has been properly called, that in fact 2 councillors have called the meeting, which is quite proper, and as a courtesy, because the Handforth chairman and vice chairman and a fellow councillor joined the meeting, as a courtesy, we allowed the chairman to take the chair. But now that they have left, it is perfectly appropriate to re-elect a chairman for this meeting. The meeting.
Chair, can you ask Jackie to minute that, please, to make it what happened prior, please?
Yes, if you would, please, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Pinkham's got his hand up. I don't know whether he wants to speak.
Yes, if I may, Chairman. I just want to make a couple of points. I normally can't attend your Tuesday meetings on Zoom because of the Rotary meetings, but I'm thoroughly disgusted on what I've seen this evening. I'm very concerned about the state of Handforth Parish Council. I understand there is a vacancy. Could someone please advise that that is true? And I'd like to know when we're going to have a clerk back at the parish council. As a resident of the parish, the council has been extremely dysfunctional for the last 12 months or more. All I have witnessed is constant rows, and it's taking Handforth Parish Council nowhere. The three councillors that are seated tonight have tried their best to keep this council going. But I believe it's time now for Cheshire East to step in and do something, because we've got a very good community in Handforth, and this is not helping one little bit. I'm concerned also, we're now into December. Precepts will have to be going forward next year to Cheshire East. And also, I don't know what the objections of the council are for next year. So I wonder if someone could try and maybe explain in a few words to me just what is going on. Thank you.
David, I'll say it for your benefit and for the benefit of any members of the public watching, that the clerk, as we know, is not here due to circumstances beyond his control. However, I would state that the three councillors that are still in the room have nothing to do with his absence, and would welcome him to walk through the door tomorrow back into his office. Things are being investigated by Cheshire East, and I'm afraid that's all I can say. I'd like to say a great deal more, but unfortunately I'd have to leave it at that. I hope that answers your question, and I apologise that I can't give you any more information. But
thank you.
We must get on now. Okay. Item 2016-1. Sorry, I've not welcomed you to the meeting with all this going on, but welcome to this meeting of Handforth Parish Council. Item 1, to receive any apologies for absence. I don't know of receiving any. You're mute, Sue.
Sorry,
Okay.
no, I haven't received any.
Thank you.
We advertised.
Okay. Or Cynthia, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Item 2, to know declarations of interest and requests for dispensation to discuss and vote on a matter in which a member or cooperative member has a disclosable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest. Do any of the other councillors have any interest in anything on this agenda?
None from Councillor Samson.
None, Councillor Moore.
None from myself. Thank you. 2016-3, open forum. Here we go. Comments from any members of the public. Please be aware that we need to get through some business here this evening. Let's try not to go over old stories. If we can have any comments or questions, please keep them short so we can get on with everything. Thank you. Anyone want anything to say?
Yes, please.
Okay, Roger.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, Roger.
Agenda item 16.8, to discuss an item dating from 3 years ago, is it?
Yes.
I believe this item may relate to public houses in Handforth and perhaps to the Railway Hotel in particular. If that's the case, policy H5A of the neighbourhood plan relates to the protection of public houses. The plan recognises the value of Handforth's 4 public houses as public community resources / meeting places and recommends their continued use for these purposes. The use classification of public houses is A4, and the neighbourhood plan endorses the local authority regulation that change of use of A4 premises is not permitted without consent. In my view, the Railway Hotel is one of the more pleasant of Handforth's pubs. I believe the parish council should do all in its power to keep it so.
Thank you, Roger.
I have a second point, but I'll stop there.
I will be expanding on this during the agenda item.
Thank you.
Yep.
My second point is agenda item 1610. Of course, as a member of the public, this is a bit of a mystery to me, and I would be grateful if during the appropriate part of the agenda, the contents of this letter are made clear to those members of the public who are present. And at that stage, maybe it would be more appropriate for me to suggest how the parish council might formulate an official reply to that letter.
Thank you, Roger. Yes, we will be. Sorry, we will be elaborating on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody else? Any members of the public? Ian. Ian, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Right.
I noted before the chairman departed from the meeting, the chairman of the council, I noted that his label on his video said Clerk of Handforth Parish Council. Could anyone please clarify how that came about and whether that is in fact the case right now?
Thank you, Ian. I must admit, I didn't notice that.
I have a photograph of it.
I can only assume it was, did you say it was a badge or was it actually his tag on his laptop?
It's where, like you see Ian Ball on my video, it
Yes.
said Clerk Handforth Parish Council on his.
Yes.
I have no idea how that has happened, and I am, as far as I'm concerned, and any other councillors here this evening, he is not the Clerk of Parish Council, whether or not he declares himself to be or not, or makes himself a badge that says I'm the Clerk of Parish Council. My understanding is he cannot do it.
No,
it is not.
I also have an email from him saying that he has taken over as Clerk of Handforth Parish Council.
I'd like to perhaps ask Jackie, if could you give us a chart view on this?
Yes, certainly, Chairman. Yes, most definitely. I did. Thank you. I did notice the moniker on the screen, and it did make it quite difficult putting names to whoever. But having followed this quite closely, the chairman simply declared himself clerk and notified everybody of the case, and the remaining members, quite correctly, have refused to recognise that that position. But as Councillor Smith says, I'm afraid there's no way of stopping him calling himself clerk.
Okay.
Please refer to me as Britney Spears from now on.
Thank you very much.
And could I ask Jackie if you could note the member of the public's query, please? Okay, thank you, Ian. Do any other members of the public have any queries, questions? No, thank you. Move on.
Chairman, could I just ask you?
Sorry, yes.
We did, as you know, put the disrupted members into the waiting room Are we minded to allow them to try to return to the meeting?
I'm afraid that I would be loath for that to happen because we've got work to get through, and I can only see everything being
even more disruptive.
I was surprised at the reaction of some of the people in the way that, you know, certainly in the Brewerton household.
May I interject there, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Would it be acceptable to send a message to them to say if they are prepared to come back and behave in the proper manner, then we would happily have them back in the meeting?
No, I'm against that, Sue, because they've already disrupted the planning.
Okay.
They've also disrupted the community. And what
Cynthia.
I felt really aggrieved at was the fact that someone in the Brewerton household sat there like a laughing hyena.
Can I just make a suggestion? I'd like to propose a motion that should those who have been, should we say, excluded currently from the meeting be allowed back in, and would the councillors vote in favour or against? Any of those in favour of letting them back in?
Not unless they promise to behave.
No. Any of those against? Promises mean nothing, Sue.
Okay, against.
I'm against.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jackie. Next item 4, to approve and sign the minutes of the Handforth Parish Council meeting of 10th of November. I'll go through by page, not many. Page 1, any comments?
None from Samson.
Thank you. Page 2, any comments?
No, Chair, fine.
Thank you. Page 3, any comments?
No.
No.
Thank you. Can I have a proposal to accept the minutes?
I'll propose.
Thank you. Thank you. And a vote, please, in favour of accepting the minutes.
I'm in favour.
In favour, Councillor Samson.
In favour. Thank you. Unanimous. Item 5, to approve and sign the order of payments. Accounts for December 2020. Does anyone have any queries?
Chair, can I make a comment on this? Because I understand that the Vice Chair has made himself the responsible officer. And I don't know, I wasn't involved in that. It didn't come to a full council meeting. Once again, it was just like the chair nominating himself as clerk. So this is a motion on our agenda. I'm prepared to accept it as long as I'm not going to be deemed illegally passing funds over.
No, these are payments that are mostly set up on backs.
Okay.
And we're not signing checks.
No.
These are legitimate and they are all as required for the running of the council, which is why I want to get on with the business this evening, because there are outstanding items, particularly financial, that need resolving.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll propose the payments.
I'll second.
Thank you. And can we have a vote in favour, please?
In favour, Councillor Samson.
In favour, Councillor Moore.
In favour. Thank you for that. Order of payments, thank you. And next item, number 6, motion to approve the proposed 21-22 financial year budget. This was presented at the last meeting, which wasn't attended by the Chair of Finance and was deferred to this meeting because I wanted to discuss elements of the budget with the supposed producer of that budget. It seems that he didn't produce the budget. It was previously done by a third party who we can't speak to for reasons beyond his control.
Chair, can I just say, I went through the budget. There's no glaring errors. We do have the opportunity to move budget coding if we need to. And I'd like to thank the person who prepared this budget without any help from the finance chair, that I think it's a good job. Thank you.
Exactly, and we are running late on getting this budget in. So I propose that we accept the budget as members of the council have a copy of it, seen it.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sue?
Yes, I'm in favour.
Thank you. So seconded by Councillor Moore. Thank you. And those in favour?
Yes.
Councillor Samson in favour.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you.
In favour.
Yeah. So budget agreed for next year. Thank you. Number 7, motion is to approve proposals regarding the Parish Council precept for financial year 21-22. And again, quite some time ago, I believe that there was a proposal to reduce the precept.
Oh, no.
Now, and because, well, for what I don't believe were good reasons. However, I believe that once you reduce the precept, you never get it back again.
Correct.
If we did reduce the precept, calculations show that it would be approximately £1.50 per household if we dropped it by £10,000. £1.50 per household per year, which would mean that everybody in the every household would be able to buy a tin of biscuits or a packet of half a pound of butter, but it would mean that Cheshire East would just keep that precept, and we would not have the ability in Cheshire, in Handforth Parish Council, to pay for things that benefit the wider community rather than just the £1.50 per household. So I'm proposing that we leave the precept as it is. Can I have any comments on that?
Chair, I'd like to say that since the conception of Handforth Parish Council, we haven't increased the budget, we haven't increased the precept. I think we've been quite frugal.
Sorry, Cynthia, do you mean decrease the precept?
No, decrease. I'm not in favour of decreasing.
Correct, yes, okay.
Because I fully understand that if we decrease it, the money goes to Cheshire East, to other councils, and we've lost that money. So we need to be able to demonstrate that we can keep within our budget, and I'm sure we can, with proper financial controls in place. And unfortunately, as we don't have a clerk at the moment, it's up to us 3 councillors to make sure that any spend is in keeping with the budget.
Yep.
Thanks for that. Any comments, Sue?
Yes, I would be totally against reducing the precept altogether, because that's just an absolute nonsense. But I would also be against, at this current moment in time, increasing the precept by any substantial amount, because we don't have currently any projects ready to go. It's, as you know, we've been working very hard trying to get these through and pushed forward, but we've been coming up against a stone wall. So until we've got something concrete in place, I think we have to stick with what we have.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Jackie, can I just ask any comments on our stand on this, our logic?
No, I think it's been a difficult time for you trying to put together anything like a reasonable budget, given the engagement that you've had with officers and fellow members. So I think that the proposal that you're putting forward at the moment you're putting forward a proposal for no increase, and you have a reasonably flexible budget that you all feel quite comfortable with, is a really good start. There is the opportunity to discuss any nuances of it before the actual precept goes in, but otherwise it's a perfectly reasonable document to move forward with, and a perfectly reasonable document to set your precept by.
Thank you for that. So can I would like to propose that we do not decrease or increase the precept. We'll leave it as it is for 21-22.
I'll propose that.
I'll second it.
Councillor Samson.
Thank you. Can I have a vote in favour, please?
Yeah,
In favour, Councillor Samson.
in favour, Councillor Moore.
In favour myself. Thank you very much. Precept. Right. Now, to discuss the meeting of 12/19/17, item 17/26/11. That actual.
Can we back?
Bear with me a second. I'm just looking for the papers. Which
I'll ask you to be put in. Please, could Alan Murdoch be brought back into the meeting?
Who's Alan Murdoch, please?
Yes, please.
No, who is Alan Murdoch?
He's a member of the public.
Member of the public, yes.
I've got Alan's iPad and Alan's
Yes, that's him.
Alan's iPad,
Yes.
certainly.
Just excuse me a second, please.
Thank you.
Please give my apologies to his iPad.
No, mate, sorry, I didn't realise I was disruptive. I was being muted. How can I be disruptive when I'm muted?
You're always disruptive.
Just by looking at you.
Right, item 8. In September 2017, a motion was published requesting that the Parish Council look into the community right to bid on assets of community value. In particular, at that time, they were specified as the railway pub, the Freemasons, the Bull, and the Wagon and Horses, and the Mermaid. I'll get to that shortly. I'm requesting this time, and the reason that they were all put in is because they are assets to the village. Some people might like the railway, some people might prefer the Freemasons, some people might not like either of those and want to go to the Bull's Head. So the point is that we have these assets currently, we'd like to maintain them. The reason for asking for the Mermaid to be included was in order to gain protection for that potential asset. There has been discussions in the past about having that turned into a community centre, which would also be suitable for changing rooms for the football pitches, as we now have a junior team playing on there, that someone wants to do a photography club, a karate club. There are a number of elements that we would be looking at for bringing into use in the Mermaid itself, which currently is dilapidated. If we have it protected and as a community asset, as with the other elements, then developers can't just walk in and overdevelop, which can happen. We'd like to keep it so that we can use it as an asset ourselves. Now, the other asset that we want to ensure is the youth centre, that we get that declared an asset of community value, because we need a community centre. It's still called Handforth Youth Centre. It's the home for Handforth Parish Council. It's the home for a number of other organisations that we'd like to get this more and more used as we go on. And what I'd like to do, given what was mentioned before from Alan about and Roger about the neighbourhood plan, that I think this sub-project, if you like, would sit very nicely in with those members of the neighbourhood plan steering group with their expertise. And I did know, Roger, yes, that it was included in the neighbourhood plan, and I'd like to make it happen. And it would be useful to have the approval of the council to go ahead on this. I don't want to go into detail now, we don't need to, but it's essentially, it's a box ticking exercise to begin with. And it can, my concern is, given the year that we've had, that the health of pubs is not good. as commercial operations. There is a very good danger that some developers may come along and, I don't know, take advantage of them not being able to make a decent profit. So what I'd like to do is G this along and get this along moving quite quickly so that we can get that protection. It offers 5 years protection if they are accepted as to be nominated, and via Cheshire East, and look to get movement on the youth centre as well, because that, if you look at the youth centre, it's an ideal candidate for throwing up more houses. It's in a great place. There's houses built just down the road. We don't want that to happen. So I'd like to make sure that we do get that as an asset of the community. That's all the detail I need to go into at the moment. I will pass it around to all relevant interested parties, but I'd just like the council to back and agree the motion that we can go ahead, and then at least we've got 6 months to get it before any motions that we put through today are rescinded. So that's what happened last time. I was on holiday and it didn't go through, I think possibly because of that.
Chair,
any questions on that?
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
It was Alan Murdoch that brought it to my attention, and I actually put it on the agenda for it to become a community asset. And
yes,
unfortunately, it was voted down. So I'm glad that you've brought it back, and I think it's going to be a benefit to Handforth, and I'm glad that you've suggested that it goes under the umbrella of the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah, one point on this is that if, let's say, one of the pubs in Handforth has this, inverted commas, protection, or a bit of a moat around the place for at least 5 years, that gives them a better negotiation position with their breweries and area managers. Say that, look, we've got this, we are solid, we need some investment in the long term, not just the short term.
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah, interesting. The Mermaid building was not listed as one of Handforth's 4 public houses in the neighbourhood plan, and therefore, in a sense, doesn't get protection under policy H5A. The other point I would make refers back to points made by Alan in the previous meeting. The neighbourhood plan steering group has never formally been disbanded. As far as I'm concerned, it's still intact. However, if it is going to develop, perhaps by the inclusion of councillors amongst the group, then that will require modifications to its constitution.
Perhaps if I was seen as a liaison within the group, rather than
I think it would be very easy to alter the constitution, no problem at all.
Okay.
The constitution says something like, for the present time, no councillor shall be a member of the steering group, though this may change in the future.
Okay.
So it would be very easy to do it.
Okay. One thing you mentioned there, Roger, about the Mermaid, it was actually included in the motion back in 2017. Ashley's showing a little bit of foresight in that we were looking to try and get that as an asset. So it's obviously dropped, but it isn't a public house currently. It's a potential asset to the community.
Yes.
Which is,
yes.
That's what
Yes. All right. Well, don't get me wrong. I'm all in favour of trying to preserve it in that way.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. And Alan?
Yes, can I speak? Sorry, I didn't get a chance to make any comments on this because I was on the naughty step when we first had when we had public comments.
Is there any room on it?
No, not now. No. Yeah, the idea that the neighbourhood plan steering committee continues, I'm not sure is quite what was intended. The idea really was that it would be, as was said before, sort of an ad hoc group associated with the planning committee. I'm not sure it's I suppose you could re-establish the neighbourhood planning group. It did rather sort of come to an end when the neighbourhood plan was brought into force, because that was its raison d'etre. So I don't think we want to get too hidebound on constitutional issues. I think more it's a question of finding a way in which some members of the community, including parish councillors, can actually do something constructive rather than marking time as we have been for the last 12 months or so.
Correct.
Yep, very true.
But in terms of the assets of community value, I don't think that it actually stops them being developed for 5 years. I think it means that for 5 years, there's a bit of a moratorium that the community has 6 months or so to come up with alternative proposals. So I don't think you should consider that making the assets of community value actually stops them being developed for 5 years. It just makes life more difficult for the owners and the developers.
I accept that. It's
Yes,
not a magic wand.
Doing. It's certainly worth doing.
Yes, certainly. Okay, thanks for that.
So I think you need to decide how you want any such group to be, whether it is the neighbourhood planning steering group reconstituted and continued with amendments, or as a separate sort of group, formal working group within the Planning and Environmental Committee, as was proposed by Brian Tolver actually back in May 2019. So presumably he'd be supporting that idea.
Yeah. No
yes.
problem.
Okay. Well,
no comment.
We can certainly arrange something to get things moving, I think. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think
I
with this transport plan, something needs to be done fairly quickly, because
yes.
Well, could I ask? Can you and Roger, as you're both involved, to
set up a meeting?
Yeah, just get something actually on paper so that we can say yes. Let's.
Hang on.
Sorry, Jackie.
I was just going to offer a way forward, Chairman. What if you ask the Planning and Environment Committee to set up a working group?
Yes, that was what I was thinking.
As much as we'd love that.
Yes, I'm conscious of the fact that working groups in the Planning and Environment Committee, working groups seem to start and end with the chair to some degree. Yeah, and I'd rather keep it sidestepped if possible, because we often get reasons why things can't happen rather than reasons why things can.
In which case, Chairman, what about setting up a small task and finish group to look at the implications and the opportunities that arise from 12/9/17 and make nominations to it now?
Yes, I drafted some things quite some time ago, referring to like the not Handforth Action Group, but Handforth
improving
Doers.
Handforth. It was, John.
Including Handforth.
It was improving Handforth, and we wrote down.
That's right. So we'd be looking to the same people, Roger, Alan, the same sort, and people on the steering group, those people, but not necessarily under the auspices of Handforth Parish Council, in the same way that the Friends of Handforth Station operate quite happily with the occasional input from the Parish Council, but not working under the Parish Council.
I think it probably is important to include an officer from the Friends of Handforth Station. Maybe Mike Bishop as president would be appropriate in that respect. He has the greatest insight, as far as I am aware, of the current negotiations with Network Rail with regard to the lift installation and with regard to the proposed car park and ride system.
So, and there you have it. We've got at least 3 to 4 people already willing to be seconded. And
I haven't asked him if he's willing, but
all right, okay.
Can I just make one comment before we move on?
Certainly.
The neighbourhood plan wasn't led by HPC. The neighbourhood plan met together and made decisions, and they brought it to the council. That's what I would like happening with the transport and with this community asset, that it goes under the umbrella of either the neighbourhood plan steering group, and they then bring back to the council the decisions they have made.
Yeah, it can always be a subcommittee, can't it, of the steering group?
Yes, it can be a subcommittee, and you can do it tonight.
Yep.
Right.
It doesn't require notice.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
agree with that.
Would you like to propose something, Sue?
Yeah, well, let's propose that we set up a subcommittee for that very thing.
Subcommittee of the steering group.
A subcommittee of the, yes, no, it would have to be a subcommittee of the planning and environment.
No,
I don't want it like that.
No,
because that's putting it under HPC.
We don't want it under HPC. We want it as a separate entity, so that people can go and not be overpowered by a councillor. And that's why the neighbourhood plan works so well.
Yes, it did. It did.
Agreed. So the proposal is there's a formation, Handforth people, a subcommittee of the neighbourhood plan steering group to look at items such as transport and community assets. Is that tight and general enough?
Yes.
Yes, and also maybe to later look at any modifications to the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah, agreed.
Indeed. Yes, that's true.
Very good.
So three things effectively: the travel plan, the neighbourhood plan, and the assets of community value, all of which really run together.
Yes. And perhaps call it the evolution of the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah.
Now there was one other loose end. Sorry. Go
on, Roger.
There was one other loose end when the neighbourhood plan was being drawn up, in the sense that an application was made to include St Mary's Church as a heritage asset. Now that application went in, is it now 3 years ago? And heard nothing back.
No.
And in my view, that church is well worthy of adding to the list of heritage assets in Handforth.
Well,
you can deal with that, Roger, when you get your subcommittee together.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so and we've got the motion, have we, Jackie? Okay, and can I have votes in favour, please? Oh, sorry, a proposal. I'll propose.
I'll second.
Seconded, thank you. And votes in favour?
In favour, Councillor Samson.
In favour, Councillor Moore.
And myself in favour. Thank you. Now we wish to confirm the date of the next Handforth Parish Council meeting, which will be the...
John,
yes.
Councillor Smith, can we take item 10 before the date of the next meeting, please? Because I think it's important.
Yes, it is important. I'd like to just check with Jackie is that ideal?
It really makes no difference. The date of the next the sentence.
Fine. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So we'll swap the orders, and the next one will be to discuss the correspondence received from Cheshire's monitoring officer. Now, a letter was received via email on the 25th of November to all parish councillors. I'm not going to go through every single line. I'm just going to pick out a couple of individual items that might be useful for members of the public. What I will be requesting is that this letter is appended to the minutes and is displayed on the council website, on the Facebook page, and on the notice boards. Okay.
That would be hard to do because we haven't got access to it. We're blocked.
You've got access. We're blocked against what?
On the Handforth Parish website, we can't get on.
Well, we can make a request.
Yeah.
We can.
Oh, but more people will be seeing it once it's on the Facebook page.
Indeed.
So we won't mention the parish council website for now. We won't bother putting it on the website, Jackie. So if you can delete that, we won't put it on the website for now. But
I think, Chairman, the main thing is just to say that you will make it as widely available as possible.
yeah, agreed. Thank you.
And Councillor Smith, if anybody wants a separate copy that's in attendance tonight, can we send them one?
Yes, we've asked permission and we've been allowed to share this information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Could we have a brief synopsis of the more important points in the letter?
Certainly, that's what I'm hoping to do. And it's from David Brown, who's the new Director of Governance and Compliance and Monitoring Officer. His first paragraph: I am writing to you following a number of referrals and complaints received in respect of Handforth Parish Council. I will divide this letter into 3 parts to separate the issues and prevent any conflating of behavioural and conduct issues with any substantive election point. Part 1. He tells us about the returning officer and the returning officer's duties. He says that the returning officer has received multiple correspondence which appears to suggest that the returning officer should not comply with the statutory and regulatory regime for the calling of an election. I would stress that those comments that received by the returning officer have not come from councillors in the room this evening. For the avoidance of doubt, the returning officer is charged with the proper administration of the election process. The returning officer's role does not include any element of referee, policeman, judge, adjudicator, or advisor. The returning officer is under strict obligations of impartiality and has no view on the conduct of members, clerks, or other persons within HPC. The returning officer has received a declaration of vacant office from Handforth Parish Council, and this has triggered a mandatory election process. And that declaration of vacant office was sent by the clerk because one of the councillors from the West Ward did not attend a meeting for 6 months. The last meeting that was attended was in November last year. So missed December, January, February and March, which was the last full HPC meeting. The fact that there were no meetings held is irrelevant. It is a period, not a number of meetings that were held, that is the essential item. But that is why Ashley, I said his name there, that is why the clerk sent notification to the monitoring officer, to the
Democratic Services.
The returning officer, head of Democratic Services, that there was a vacancy in Handforth. Now, at that time, this was disputed by certain members of the parish council. Part 2. I know I've got through part 1 quite quickly there, so I will go through part 2 in the same way. As a monitoring officer in Cheshire East, I have received a multiplicity of complaints and referrals. These range from multiple complaints about councillors' behaviour to fundamental issues of governance and member officer engagement. I will advise that the 3 members in the room this evening currently have made representations to the monitoring officer. The most recent referrals relate to suggestions that some members of HPC have purported to take decisions that are plainly unlawful, and these decisions have resulted in expenditure of public funds. The monitoring officer does not provide general governance advice to town and parish councils. If the code of conduct matters raised are taken at face value, they are sufficiently serious to warrant detailed consideration. The detailed consideration may result in a hearing before the Cheshire East Council Committee for Standards. The outcome of any such hearing may be public and may be used as evidence in related legal proceedings. The costs associated with the investigation of any misconduct are published and will become a matter for the parish council to defend. Until an assessment and investigation of any code and conduct issue is completed, I am unable to comment on any potential culpability of any individual or group of members. Part 3. Although this does not form part of the obligation of a monitoring officer to any parish council, you should be aware that any member who knowingly acts unlawfully places themselves at risk of personal liability or damages to third parties, and the recovery of any public money reported to be expended by them on behalf of the parish council. It may be timely, given the nature of the referrals made, for councillors to reassure themselves that no element of misfeasance in public office could arise. The elements of the offence are summarised in Attorney General's reference, and it's referenced there, and expanded upon in the Crown Prosecution Service website. And there is a link within the letter to that. Councillors are all aware that there has been no valid challenge, i.e. to the vacancy, upheld by a court, in any vacancy, there has been no valid challenge, upheld by a court to the declaration of vacancy as notified to the returning officer. It is therefore probable that any councillor acting on the purported belief that there is no vacancy may be engaging in misconduct and acting willfully or being recklessly indifferent to that fact. I would point out none of the 3 councillors in the room this evening currently have that belief that there is no vacancy. We understand that there is a valid vacancy. Please note, the offence only requires that the public trust in the office holder to be abused, and that may be achieved by relatively modest misuse of public funds or misconduct. Handforth Parish Council or any individual councillor may seek advice and assistance from the local association of town and parish councils, get a name check, for help with any potential issue and to seek advice to resolve the difficulties that have been reported. Given the high volume of complaints received, significant scrutiny of the parish council's actions is likely. Yours sincerely, David Brown. I would point out that Jackie, as Director of Chalk, has been extremely helpful, not just to the 3 councillors currently in the room, but other members who needed help and assistance in validating, what he'd actually done, and has been found to be clean as a whistle, totally legal, and perfectly in order in what he has done. Some members of this council disagree with that. My personal opinion is that it's for political gain, but I might be wrong. That's, I did read it out completely. As I said, it will be issued and it will be available for yourselves. If you'd like to email me, I'll certainly send a copy back. Roger.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Smith. I think this is a very important letter, and it's the job of the council to respond to it. I see no reason why this letter should not be made widely available to Handforth residents. However, it seems to me that there's an investigation by Cheshire East Council underway.
Correct.
I would therefore advise that any letter of response to Cheshire East should not be in any way linked to any named councillor, nor to the post of the parish clerk.
Roger, I need to just put in, Roger, we don't believe any response is necessary. That's my view. Just check with Cynthia and Sue. I don't believe that our part of the parish council needs to respond to this.
I think
this is a very, how can I put it, unheard of, unprecedented piece of action by a monitoring officer, unprecedented. And
I think from the
it
point of
doesn't-
view of local residents, it's important to thank the monitoring officer for clarifying the situation with regards to this casual vacancy. It should give an assurance that councillors will follow his recommendations with respect to accepting the existence of this casual vacancy. It should also welcome not only the early publication of the outcome of the investigation, but also the monitoring officer's continued scrutiny of the actions of the parish council.
Yes, I understand your point, Roger. That he does mention that it should be made public, any findings, and I would advise that there is an investigation currently taking place, and it has been for some time. I'm hopeful that it will be resolved sooner rather than later. At that time, that's when I believe that we should be offering thanks to the monitoring officer for what we hope will be a complete resolution of the issue.
Yeah. May I just interject there, Chair, please?
Certainly, yes.
In response to Roger's comments, I think it would be very difficult for HPC at this current time to respond to this letter because, as you can see, we have some difficulties. We could only respond as the 3 councillors who are here, and we have been in touch with the monitoring officer. So I think at this moment in time, we just have to put that on one side until such time as the investigation is concluded, and then it will all hopefully be made public.
Chair,
Cynthia.
can I speak, please?
Yes.
I understand where Roger Small's coming from, but once he sees sight of this letter, there's nothing to stop him writing to the monitoring officer as any other residents, because I know that the Handforth residents have been not kept in the dark, but we haven't been able to inform people because of confidentiality. But now that the monitoring officer has said we can share his letter, then that's up to the local resident how he responds to it.
What I would point out is that we are loath to make any comments, as Cynthia says, of a confidential nature or of an investigatory nature, because we don't want to compromise the current investigation.
Correct.
Chair.
The letter was received, I know, from my point of view, gratefully, because it did say that, yes, we understand. That's as far as we see it. So, Sue.
There's a member of the public wishes to speak.
Sorry?
Peter wishes to speak.
Oh, yes.
I thought Rogers was a very measured and appropriate response, actually. I think he's quite right that you should respond individually.
Leave the room.
I'm stuck there. I think it's a very measured and appropriate response, and I think it would be appropriate for you to reply individually. I take your point, you can't reply as the council.
Correct.
But I think to show that you agree with him, you value his letter, and yes, you will adhere to the points he makes.
Yeah.
But councillors, can I speak, Councillor Smith?
Sure, yeah.
But we have adhered to the rules and regulations. None of us have thwarted the rules or put people in a position that in some areas has become untenable.
Well, tell him that is the point, isn't it? Tell him that, yes. Roll with it.
I would point out that the level of detail of our concerns that has gone into the monitoring officer's office is far in excess, as you might expect. Currently, I'm quite happy to just wait, have some patience, and hopefully the investigation that I know is taking place, and it is quite a high level investigation, which is all I'll say, and hopefully that will be resolved sooner rather than later.
Could we have Jackie's views on this matter?
Is that all right, Chairman?
As long as you're happy making your note. Yeah.
I think picking up on what the chairman has already said, so much of this has been confidential that it kind of often looks as if there is inactivity. But I am confident that the monitoring officer is perfectly aware that the councillors that we have here this evening have done their utmost to comply with all regulatory requirements and have in effect badgered the monitoring officer to take an interest in Handforth. Also reiterating the chairman's words, a letter like this from the monitoring officer is unprecedented. I have never seen such a strongly worded letter from a monitoring officer to a local council. 25 years, I've never seen anything like it.
You've not been to Handforth often enough. Any more? Sorry, Jackie, say that again.
Just glad it's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like that. Thank you, Jackie. Does that answer the questions? By all means, email me, Sue or Cynthia, and we'll fire you a copy of it, and it's to be shared as you wish. I would, as Jackie said, the monitoring officer is aware of what's been happening here, very much so. Let's not try to over-egg it by having lots of people protesting letters to the monitoring officer. What are you doing about this? I've heard about this. Who are these idiots who are doing this? I don't think that would be helpful. Perhaps if you could, by all means, share the information, but let's not encourage people to badger the monitoring officer, because what we don't want is to have a negative effect on any investigation.
And we don't want the investigation to be compromised, Chair.
No, we don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why we have to be so careful, isn't it?
Which is why we've been walking on eggshells since June.
I'd
Yes.
say glass. I wouldn't say eggshells. My feet are cut to ribbons.
That's if you're a Scouser.
Shut up. Yeah.
Okay. Ian, question.
You're muted, Ian.
You're muted.
Now you go.
There you go.
Good.
Severe lag on the system. Just on that issue of this letter now being made public, what happens when Winslow Co UK gets hold of it?
Can't answer that.
I breathe a big sigh of relief.
Okay.
But I would prefer that not to happen just yet.
Yeah, well, it will be out of our control as soon as it goes on Facebook, of course.
There is that. I've just wondered, Jackie, perhaps your view on this, whether or not a reiteration from the monitoring officer that is happy for this to be shared goes as far as someone sharing it with the press.
There is, I know the monitor is somewhat precise and detailed, and if you wished for this correspondence to be dealt with as confidential, you would be in no doubt about it. There is no mark on the document that says that it is confidential, and it hasn't been sent to the council through the, I don't know what they call it, but
egress.
There's an internal system by which we can share confidential documents that you have to use passwords and everything to get in. So this document is part of the minutes of Handforth Parish Council, and consequently, if it's put on the internet, which we usually have to do with Parish Council minutes, although I understand there may be a challenge to that, then anyone can pick it up and put it anywhere.
So I'd like those members of the public who've asked this question just to hear what Jackie says. David,
I'd just like to say, look, I think if this goes viral on the internet or Facebook, whatever, it's going to start a war of words. And I would rather see the conclusion by whoever is looking into this case before it enters the media domain, because I've seen many things go on the wilmslow.co.uk, and it's false information, and you get the half dozen people every time stepping up, and they will put their views forward, and anyone else putting a view forward will be immediately shot down by them. So I would, if I were you, I'd just hold back and let's get a conclusion to this first.
I think I concur with you, David. I'm a bit concerned that we might prejudice anything that comes out from the from Cheshire East by doing this. It's a really difficult situation. I'm not sure. Sorry, Jackie, your comment?
Yeah, what I was going to say was, because you haven't got the letter in front of you, gentlemen, it's then you then begin to imagine what it says in it. And what it says in it is simply a statement of fact. It does not name councillors. It simply reiterates the fact that Handforth does have a vacancy, and it states that, you know, anyone interfering with that process should be careful, and it states that there is an investigation ongoing. So it doesn't prejudice anything because it's not giving any information.
The only thing, Jackie, is that what will happen is if it goes into the public domain, there will be someone shouting, "Who's the councillors?" Somebody else will then speak, and it will change the whole aspect of what this letter is saying, and you will get a war of words between different areas of the of Handforth. You'll get Wilmslow coming into it, and everyone will be having their 10 penn'orth, and it'll end up as a mess. I've seen it before when something's gone on to wilmslow.co.uk, where someone is putting forward some facts, and by the time it's been watered down with everyone having their say, it's become a joke. And I would hate this. I would like to see a proper conclusion to what's been going on here, and I would be looking for, over the next month, say, of something that's going to come out that says, right, this is the way Handforth Parish Council is going to operate in the future, indicating what has happened, but in words that the public will understand. From what you were reading out tonight, John, I think a lot of the public would have difficulty understanding what it was all about. It's not talking about names, it's talking about, the public will immediately say, well, who are they talking about? And then someone will start saying, oh, it was Councillor so-and-so. And then someone will say, no, it wasn't, they were talking about someone else. And I think it will end up with real problems. So why not just hold back another month and then let the media have their say, maybe with an interview with the Guardian, the Wilmslow Guardian, or a proper statement being put out by by Handforth Parish Council.
Right, I understand what you're saying, David, and I agree that we don't want to prejudice anything. We don't want a turf war breaking out with friends and relatives of different councillors. Perhaps if we do contact the monitoring officer directly to explain the quandary that we're in, he has indicated, like Jackie says, that yes, this can be shared, but might be misinterpreted to some people, and as I say, might cause that turf war. Can they give us an indication of when there will be a final resolution? How would that be, Jackie?
That's the way forward, yeah.
There's a couple of points with that, Chairman. First of all, knowing where the investigation is up to, and again, you know, confidential stuff, it is not going to be finished this side of Christmas. Secondly, if anybody makes a freedom of information request, then they get a copy. there's nothing that people could do about that. You know, it's not a confidential document. It hasn't been put in Part B, and there's nothing prejudicial in the content. But I mean, maybe a halfway house would be, rather than appending the letter to your minutes, is to do a précis in the minutes of the letter. And I mean short, I mean taking, forgive me, I call you David, David's point, that actually it's, many people reading it in the kind of language that we use would find it difficult to follow. But I think that I can put a reasonable précis of the 3 points that are raised in the letter, and then we'll just not mention the availability of the letter if councillors are happy with that.
Sounds good.
So that would get the flavour of the letter out in the public domain.
Yes, I think that's a very good compromise.
Yes, yes, because then we are not compromising the investigation in any way. Peter.
Yeah, hand down. Taking that point, isn't the key, therefore, that he's confirming there is a vacancy? Isn't that the bit that needs to be put in the public domain? The rest can be, I think, left as being confusing, not very clear. The key bit is that there's a vacancy.
Yeah. True, very good point. Cynthia?
Jackie, did I hear you right that this investigation isn't going to happen this side of Christmas?
No, what I said was it wasn't going to conclude this side of Christmas.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm trying to choose my words. You know me, I'm not for words. I'm sure the investigation would have been speedier with compliance.
Cooperation.
Yes, yeah. We thought that would happen.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jackie.
But there's a lot of work going on it, Cynthia.
I can appreciate.
Yeah.
And I concur with what you say about doing a pressing. Thank you.
And just to underline what Jackie said, can we make this recording available of the Zoom meeting?
I don't see why not, Chairman.
Of course.
Because I did read it, gentlemen, who made the comments, verbatim. So that is the content of the letter. That if you want to listen to my dulcet tones and get bored, then it's there and available, or will be.
Thank you.
It'd be interesting for other parties on the council to hear it.
Good. Oh, we're done now.
Do we have a proposal?
Okay. Any? Okay, we're finished on the actual communication.
Yes.
Can you just reiterate what our decision was, please, Chair?
I'm not sure what you took yet.
I think it was that Jackie will produce a précis and publish that as part of the minutes.
Thank you.
And we can decide when to put the actual letter on Tinternet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, I request those members of the public to see the issue from our point of view, that we've been stuck with this now for getting on for 6 months, and we don't want to cock it up. So, by all means, use the information in there, but perhaps at this stage, firing it all out might be counterproductive.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have proposing. Do I have a seconder?
Yes,
I'll
I'll
second
second
it.
it.
Oh,
All in favour?
I'm in favour.
Councillor Samson.
Yes, in favour. All three.
Yep.
Thank you. And
may I, on behalf of the members of the public that are present, thank Jackie very sincerely for the hard work that she's put into these 2 meetings, given the kind of difficulties that they presented.
Here, here.
completely right, Roger.
Yeah, dead right.
Okay, and last item, to confirm the date of the next Handforth Parish Council meeting.
The second Tuesday in January. Don't know what the date is. I haven't got my diary in front of me, sorry.
I think it's the 12th, isn't it?
Okay, that sounds about right.
11th of January, I'm told.
11th. Right.
Yes.
Is it 11th?
Okay. Yeah.
So ends the business of the Part A part of the meeting. Now I'd like to say thank you to the members of the public for attending. It's been very worthwhile. I think we've achieved quite a bit. And going forward with the projects that we're looking into. And thank you again.
Very much.